Welcome, sunny Seattle, right? I guess native Southern California, this is probably the one day of the year in Southern California we have weather like this. And the rest of the years is all sunny weather, right? What we're going to do in the next probably 20, 30 minutes, hopefully, we will kind of take you through a fast forward what the evolution of our business looked like in the last, I would say, 12 months since I joined the company. One thing we have done is really be able to take some of the classic franchises that you might have heard, Pac-Man, Galaga, Tekken, and I think some of you who's been tracking us, you see that evolution going from traditional just merely console or mobile, and you're seeing them start crossing over all the different devices and start connecting with one another through the social space. To that point, what I'd like to do is kind of kick off with a little Sizzle Wheel, a video, let you see the evolution over the last year in merely 2 minutes. So, let me fire that off. So that's quite interesting, right? You see a lot of probably well-known franchise over the course of our business in the years, and seeing how you actually have evolved and touched multiple platforms in all different areas, which is, I think, most of us are pretty interested in this space today. Give you a little bit of background about myself. I actually have joined the gaming business about 5 years ago through a company named Activision Blizzard. I think some of you might have heard of Call of Duty, Guitar Hero, World of Warcraft. So I've been involved primarily in that space, looking at purely how do we take each one of those core franchises to the digital space. But one thing that was quite interesting in that business was, it's about monetizing these franchises, but we actually, our reach was fairly limited to this console space. This is where I got turned on to NAMCO Bandai Games last year. I was asked to join the company about a year ago. In fact, it was about this time of last year. To help set forth the company to say, how do we take the console business, which NAMCO Bandai has, and also there's a separate business that NAMCO owns called NAMCO Networks, which is primarily focused on mobile games, social game, which is kind of emerging market for their business. So what we did over the course of the last year was take those two businesses, combine them together. And I think many of you that are sitting in the audience probably been in the console business or the mobile or social game business. You can probably see that it's probably the worst nightmare you can ever think of, right? Taking a business that is known to be well predictable from a console standpoint, right? You know exactly what the first week sales looks like. By the fourth week, you already made 80% of your revenue. You're like, great, I'm on to the next games. While on the mobile and social game business, it's about, okay, well, this game looks good, we're going to put out the market and let's see how it goes. So imagine the two infrastructure coming together over the course of last year. So what you are going to see is how we actually evolve our business really, rather than making this to be a complete nightmare over the last year, but turn this into a unique, unfair advantage in this market today. So part of this presentation is take you through some of these, and in fact, we'll show you some real case study that we actually launched, recently launched some product that supports that. Myself, I spent, like I said, in the business the last 5 years. In fact, my gaming business actually started as early as my first part-time job in high school. I was working for my parents, managing their coin-up arcade, taking out a couple arcade machines called Street Fighter, Tekken, which happened to be on the franchise I work on now, and Mortal Kombat. We were taking them out, doing revenue sharing with a convenience store. So you can imagine, I think from the perspective of gaming and rev sharing to multiple platforms, accessibility to consumer started way back 20 years ago as simple as arcade machines. So that's kind of where my background started, and of course you're probably going to find a lot of bad background about me along the way with some people you might know. But to that point, what I want to do is kind of take you through what we have done, as a new company. How are we going to tap into all those unique advantages we have, right? Having the business system, marketing system, and know-how on both sides. One thing we do know as a company is that our vision and our goal is be able to combine all these know-how in the franchise that we have to create the best interactive content across as many devices that we can. And when I said device, what I mean is I think we got in the place of realizing that it's not about what platform you make the games on. It's about making a single game based on the brand and making it accessible everywhere, right? And how do we go about doing that with our business today? A couple of things. Start with that, we call them content accessibility. Take Pac-Man as an example, right? You take this one franchise, everybody knows that from a coin-up arcade. 25 cents, you pop in, you play, the maze, 3 lives, you're gone. That's your most basic fundamental piece on the game mechanic for Pac-Man. But now, how do you evolve that play mechanics to more mature group, to folks that are younger kids, or to more the hardcore gamers? This is where when we call content accessibility, is taking that one piece of franchise, evolve the gameplay such that it becomes relevant to a particular group of hardcore gamers. So most recently, we actually launched a game called PAC-MAN Championship DX Edition on the Xbox Live and PSN. That is one of the games that taken Pac-Man from what everyone's known, but more cater the game mechanic and the game behavior specific to the hardcore gamers. That's what we call content accessibility, really making it for the particular group of people that we want to go after. Second to that, multi-platform, which is why we're here today, right? Being able to take a particular, now that we identify who we're going after, the game mechanic, we need to bring it to the devices that they have today. Because what we want to do is make sure consumer can continue the gameplay from device to device as they're sitting in a living room playing the game in the morning, leave the house on the mobile phone, get on a bus, fire off the iPad. How do you make sure that experience is continual with that particular brand? But more specifically, that the game is designed for that device. Because one of the worst things a consumer can do is, or us as a developer can do, is make a game and say, all right, we're going to port it to as many devices as you can. Can you imagine trying to play a game like a shooter title on a feature phone that you only got a keypad? Absolutely not. So when we say multi-platform, is to be smart enough to take this game, make sure it's designed from a game mechanic perspective that fits for that particular device. Third piece, this is probably the most critical piece and probably the, I would call, anti-business model that people have. We call it the community, right? This is where the fans are, the end consumers are. They pick up the game. You want them to be part of the development cycle. What we have done over the last year is to build a culture where the fan matters. Their decision matters. They help us to make decisions from both how the gameplay works by just merely how they're playing the game every day, looking at those analytics, but also even voting, looking at what the names of the game is. When should we launch a game? How should we launch a game? We're totally tight in with these fans. We have a dedicated team in my organization focused on building this fan, listening to them, research, and having them involved in the game development cycle. And as of, I think, last week, our active fan is about 7 million large worldwide. That is a lot of power, and there's a lot of consumer voice to listen to. Fourth, please, partnership. This is probably, again, another area that most businesses go, oh, partnership, well, that's also, you got to be benefiting both sides. The partnership that we're talking about is actually being out here, being out in different conferences, sharing with partners like yourself to say, hey, there must be a lot of great content you have developed. We have the fan, we have the community, we have the infrastructure. How do we partner together to bring your content to our fans as a whole, and help you to build your business so it becomes a win-win situation? And then last but not least, this is probably an area that you see up there, playing as believing. What does that really mean? What that really translates to is quality, quality, quality. I think having been in the gaming business the last couple of years, one thing that I pretty much can tell you is predictable is that good game sells. Crappy game doesn't. So how do you make sure you monetize on that? You make sure you do it right. So in our mind, in the last year, what we have done is we really restructure our slate over the course of the next couple of years to make sure that we really make sure every games that we put out as Namco Bandai's worldwide are the best game we can deliver to the fan. We hear the fan, we make the best game for every single platform, every devices, because the space today is so competitive. You cannot afford to make a bad game. The bad game will kill you. It will take you so much time to recover from it. So that is one of the things that we believe in so much that we actually trademarked this tagline. So playing is believing is kind of a theme on a go-forward basis. At the recent E3, that became a big mantra. Playing is believing. Consumer picks it up, press picks it up, everyone picks it up, and they go, wow, this is exactly what the gaming experience needs to be. So you take all 5 of those core pillars is where our business is going to be focusing on in the upcoming years. What we believe in is multi-platform. And when we say multi-platform, it's not about just one smartphone device. I'm thinking about flip phones, right? Java Brew devices. There's still hundreds of millions out there. We cannot forget those people are also gamer. How do we make sure as a developer and a publisher, everything that we do connect all those devices together and bring our brand to that perspective? To give you a little highlight on some of the brand though, so now that you kind of look at the strategy, how we think of the multi-platform approach, how a pillar going to live on beyond that, so what brand do you have to work with? So up here on the screen, you probably see a couple of the classic brand that you might have heard of, PAC-MAN, Galaga, that we probably spend hundreds of quarters relevant to that. And then you also see some of the more relevant kids brand today. Some of your kids, or my kids at least, are loving today, right? Power Ranger, Dragon Ball, Naruto. These kids are Ben 10. These are the brand names that we work with, that we have, that we can take them today and expand beyond the reach of just a console game or just merely a mobile game today. And then you also have classic brand like Ridge Racer, you might have heard earlier, Ace Combat. These are the classic so-called hardcore games that live in the console business. We're also looking at how do you take those and evolve into as simple as a Java Brew device to bring a great iOS, Android, Windows Phone 7 experience. Those are the type of things we have a lot of opportunity as developers and publishers will make that gaming experience and deliver that for everybody. And of course, then last but not least, you might have heard a little bit about things, like Tekken, Soul Calibur, big fighting game for us. Again, that's probably the most interesting franchise we've been spending a lot of time on, is that requires such a high graphical power. How do we bring that experience and do it well at each one of these platform devices? To that point, now you heard enough about the pitch, about what the company's about, what the strategy's about. Great, you have all those great brands. So what? What are you going to do? How are you going to make this thing mature? So what I want to do is take you through this little game called the Mooniacs. It's actually one of the first product that we would call, and we're very proud of this as being a first product that we brought to market that delivers against the vision that we talked about. So I'll give you a little bit background story on this. So Mooniac is actually, it's formerly known as a different game name. We went out and started pitching about this idea or the vision of this company in the publishing ability and the fan network that we have in place. So we found a small little developer, live in the Southern California, as one of the city down there. Every other city looks exactly the same in Orange County, but called Bad Juju Games. They have this actually pretty cool games that they created, but they put on the market. That darn thing isn't going anywhere. In fact, this thing was sitting there and got like 2 reviews and go, okay, great. We made about $5 of it, and they were like, it's not going anywhere. So we sat down, right, leveraged one of the core pillars to say partnership, right? Let's sit down. Let's not worry about our own core brand, but I think there's a potential of this game. I remember the first time we saw that, we go, dang, this got this Angry Bird potential here, but how do we take this as an exercise for ourselves, right? Using that partnership piece and then expand it beyond this and really bring this game to full maturity. So we sit down with these partners at Bad Juju and say, hey, what's your thought? We take this off the market. Let us help you to look at the game mechanics. What are the couple of things we can tap into? So there's the beginning of the story. So we partnered with them, took a look at the game. It's a good game. It's a cute game. But what it was missing was a couple of pieces. It's the accessibility. The name that they had at the time, I don't remember. It was kind of scary. It's not approachable to the fans. So we kind of, what is fun? What is interesting? One of my favorite cartoons back in the day is Animaniac. So we'll go, well, we got to do something cool like this, but it's still, you know, we'll probably get sued by using that name. But the whole idea of the story is that you're playing this little Mooniac guy who has a crash landing in the moon and collect these, you know, jujubes and collect parts to rebuild your spaceship to fly away, right? So we'll go, hey, wouldn't it be really cool to call it the Mooniacs? I mean, that's really how the name came about as a team with them. So through that partnership, we go, hey, now we have a really cute name that you can go with, approachable to market. Great. So we got that first part of the equation done. Started making it accessible, right? But to make it even more accessible from the game side, what didn't happen was that game at the time, it didn't have a lot of instruction. So unless you've been playing a lot of mobile game and is smart enough, you know, play around and be able to sit through for 15 minutes, great. Then you might be able to break through that barrier of 15 minutes to say, now I'm going to keep playing this game. It's great. So again, we went back and say, hey, you need to kind of put some tutorial in place. Make it accessible. Teach people. Carry people through the rope. A lot of the basic pieces that people would think you would think about, it wasn't in there. We added that in. Did some testing. Accessible to younger group crowds. Bingo. Within 1 minute, people will pick it up. They get the fun. Now it's accessible to people. Now we've got the content accessible piece. Make some adjustment for a different group to get to the content easily. The next step, multi-platform. The game at the original state was only available on the iPhone, iOS, not even on iPad. I go, guys, why don't you consider making this a universal app? Yeah, there's some investment in that we will put in to up-res it, do it right, dial in the graphics, make it look good, right? Have level quality, and make it a universal app. iOS, check. So now we got the universal app, one price that gets to both. Now you expanded your platform reach within the iOS world. But the other side, there's a small little thing called Android that's out there. So we also decided to say, let's also take this game, expand it out to the Android space. So at E3 this year, we actually launched the game date and date with iOS as a universal app and an Android app. Now we hit multi-platform storyline. Last piece, right? Then you go, well, okay, where do we have on this community piece? Of course, you can't just relaunch a game by polishing it, putting more platform support on it. You got to do something unique and different about it. So I think we sat in the room late one evening. I don't even remember what we were eating or drinking at the time. But we go, we have to figure out how to tap into this community. So we came up with one idea. We sat there and say, what is unique about this game for each of the individual experience? But what we want is how do you translate to a massive global social movement for consumer? So we came up with this idea to say, within there, there's a little thing called Jujube that you collect every single level. Every Jujube counts. I don't know who said that in a meeting. Every Jujube counts. I'm like, okay, what do you mean by that? So we go, how about this? Let's put a counter in, connect every single device and every single install of this game. And with a global counter of this Jujubes. So there's actually global counter counting every single devices once they get connected. 15 Jujube got collected. 200 got collected over the course of a day, right? So imagine all these different Jujube get collected across all these different devices. It's irrelevant what platform you're on. You could be on Android. One counts as one global Jujube counts, as in an iOS one. So we go, okay, we got that part down. Aggregate them up, get people, have this great social movement. What else? Let's unlock some cool content. So what we have decided to do is have this global social counter, add all this Jujube up, and then when you get to a certain threshold, it unlocks content for everybody. So in fact, we actually reached the first milestone, I believe, last week at 10 million counts. 10 million Jujube collected worldwide. That got unlocked a new set of desktop wallpaper for people. Quite interesting. So now we're exploring different ideas. Do we unlock new levels, which we have all the capability in? The best part of all to convince my management that we want to do this is, hey, for those of us like myself who doesn't have time to wait until the next 10 million get collected, we actually added a microtransaction engine there. So crazy people like me will pay a certain dollar amount to unlock the content in advance of people. So if you think about that, what we have done here is quite interesting, is that you take in a game that has high level of quality, but polished it and matured it, right, across our cross-platform strategy, and then most important, tie into the community. All of a sudden, this game has now gone from a, hidden engine, became a potential diamond that we have in the rough. So these are the type of things that we're looking at when we come to the partnership side of things. To that point, I want to also fast forward talk about our franchise, right? Because if I keep doing these partnership things, my boss will probably go, "What are you doing? We have these other franchises you want to develop on." So that gives you a little context on this Pac-Man. So everybody heard about it. I think Pac-Man is in every single unforeseeable platform that ever to come in this entire world. And every single time there's a new mobile device launch, IPTV device launch, you always can find Pac-Man on there. One thing you couldn't find Pac-Man on is online. It's not on social space, not anywhere. So we go, how do we make sure we get ourselves on there? So one thing we did back in September of this year, I think it was September 12th, I think that's what it said on there, in partnering with Microsoft, when they were launching out their new Internet Explorer, we go, what is cool about this is, how do we, again, take Pac-Man to evolve and tap into the social space that we have today? So we created this thing called the world's biggest Pac-Man. Because one thing that you could not do, as all the time with Pac-Man, is create your own maze. For that matter, you're always limited to whatever is within this space. So the idea behind this is that let's break all those boundaries within the social space. So we created this world's biggest Pac-Man, where what it comes down to was a consumer can log into this, go to the world's biggest Pac-Man, log in using their small little thing called the Facebook account. Now you can create your own maze. We created a really cool tool so people to build this maze, and this maze will get backed up against each other. So there you go, it's the world's biggest Pac-Man maze. It's pretty amazing how fast this movement moved since we launched in April. And with that launch, I think as of earlier this week, 1 billion Pac dots went in. I mean, that means not only are we people building maze, people are actually playing with the maze and enjoying it. Now, of course, my community team was actually not too happy with it, because you can imagine there's a lot of creative people. You let them create their own maze, so you can imagine, use your wildest imagination, what kind of picture you might end up seeing out of it. But it's pretty amazing how the fans really live through this. But more importantly for us is that we were able to take Pac-Man from traditional model where everybody is used to this traditional game mechanic, but be able to bring them to online through the social space where we're allowing the fan, involving them in the evolution of our business. In this case, using a Pac-Man well-known franchise. And of course, of all the things that were in there, we actually taught our company a lot of different things about the business system. It's not about sometimes making money on day one. It's about building the social movement, getting people interested in it. Because this particular world's biggest Pac-Man project became the launch pad of our most recent launch game, Pac-Man, Classic Pac-Man on Facebook. It becomes a launching point. Now people can play the classic version of Pac-Man using Facebook. In fact, we're using Facebook credit just like what you get on a 25-cent coin-up experience. That, to us, is the type of learning that we're seeing, touching all those platforms, experimenting, and then how do you really build this out and involve the fan every step of the way. Last but not least, kind of wrap this whole thing up. I'll believe in, I think have you seen it, is kind of seeing where our company has evolved to. But more importantly, you see that how we have been delivering in a very short amount of time, not only establishing the vision, but being able to live by what we believe in, taking those 5 core pillars on our vision and productize it in June of this year, merely a year after we work on merging these 2 organizations. And then you're further seeing how we're going to do platform extension with some of the core brands like Pac-Man and a whole list of other names that you have seen there. You're going to see a lot of interesting iteration, how we're going to take this to market, to really bring it to the social space and tap into the fans out there to make it more mass and more accessible to everybody. And that's about it. Thank you.
Thank you, Carlson. And any questions for Carlson? Tim.
Tim Merrill, DigiCapital. We're a games investment bank. When you take great franchises and move them across platforms, how is that changing your business model from both revenue and cost perspectives?
Always that's the same question I get asked by the board of director every single time. It's easy to move from, I think, some of the brand that is more classic, I would say, across, because majority of those brand names has, fairly, the cost has all been absorbed, a lot of the code's been built in. So those are pretty easy to start with. So the way we've been approaching it is we start with a classic franchise like Galaga, Pac-Man, Dig Dug, because those, to the management, those are already, easy money to go with it, right? So we got through that first port of it. The thinking for us, the strategy is, let's get those things moving for us. Let the management learn. I mean, this is something that is a learning process of everybody. For the board to understand that the money doesn't come day one. So now they're starting to see wow, this is quite interesting, this business model, right? If you were to say, use a traditional console model, the world's biggest Pac-Man is the biggest epic failure in their mind. But the monetization didn't happen until 2.5 months later when we launched Pac-Man, classic Pac-Man on Facebook. All of a sudden they go, oh wow, that's interesting. All those activities here translate to activity here, which, we just brought the classic arcade online to over 500 million fans online. So I think to us, that's kind of where the transition would be. And we're lucky enough that we have a lot of these classic brand names to work with. You will definitely probably will see in the upcoming years how we can tap into some more recent titles. Undisclosed one, but you'll probably see it on the slide of some interesting approach that we're going to take them. But definitely from a business standpoint, is a really tough change because, it's two different culture coming together. One is about running it full speed ahead through the glass, and the other one sitting there going, is this a glass or not? So, but definitely I think this exercise using classic franchise for us has been a good way to model for our senior management team to see these changes of the evolution of our business.
Any other questions? All right, there you
go. Thinking about the community aspect, you mentioned the possibility, inevitability that with the world's largest Pac-Man, people would make sort of risque or rude mazes.
Yep.
So how did you handle that? Was it just wide open? Did you set ground rules? Was there moderation?
Wide open. I mean, seriously, it's probably the scariest things for a company for any company, and then for a Japanese company, because traditionally we're very culturally conservative and risk averse. But I think this is a good thing for us is that I say, guys, let's take a risk, let's try it, and we'll manage as much as we can. So the moderation is not only managed by my team. I got a group of full-time folks in-house, but we also enlist a lot of fans who wants to keep this going. So one of the things we approach is by saying, guys, if you want to keep this going, we got to keep it clean. So to keep it clean, help us to help you. So there actually, oddly enough, there's a lot of fans that's in there are given tools to go in to turn them off or to iterate them around a little bit so it doesn't look like what it's what people want it to be. But oddly enough, it's only about I would say 0.5% of the maze that get created daily has the strange looking things on there that we have to remove. So it's a well worth it risk to take.
All right, we have time for one more question.
Hi, what are some of your, in terms of talking about the community, what are some of your best methods and conduits to talk and communicate and listen to the community?
So let me understand the question. So the question is, how are we communicating our community on a regular basis? Is that right?
And yeah, how are you listening? How are you able to obtain the key feedback from your fan base?
Yeah, so a couple of approaches. So we have several ways. Not only do we do them online, so Facebook is our kind of our primary platforms that we start with because that's kind of everybody has a Facebook account. We're in there, in fact, every single comment that gets put up gets read. They might not get responded to because some of them is, you don't want to respond to because it opens up a confidential information in our product roadmap. But the other thing is actually I have 2-3 full-time folks in my team that are actually hardcore gamers. In fact, one of our core community manager is the world champion of Tekken. He has won 4 times world championship over the course of the last 10 years. First championship that he won was 14, which I'm like, really? That's pretty wild. And he's probably one of the most incredible players. And what he does is actually offline, we call him. He's actually traveling worldwide, every single tournament. He's in there with the fan, hearing what they want to do. It's like, hey, we're doing this next Tekken. What do you want to see in next Tekken? What do you have? So he's literally, his tag is, filthy rich, right? And this filthy rich guy literally are like fans of the fans. They are able to get a tap right in there. There are a couple big things that we're doing down in Comic-Con. Like for example, one of the upcoming, one of the console game, one of the arcade game in Japan called Tournament Tag 2, only available in Japan. We hear from the fans through Filthy Rich that says they want to play in the U.S. So what do? We imported 4 of them into the United States. In fact, it's going to be first played at Comic-Con this year, this week, in fact. And then not only are we letting them play it, we're actually going to host a tournament with big pricing behind it. So the idea behind it is a constant feedback, constant evolution, not only online, but also offline, these type of live activities.
All right. With that, thank you, Carlson.
Right.
Give it a round of applause.
Thank you.
There you go.